Hello, everyone. Today, I have time to discuss with you about the excavator valve, a structure and principle of this boom valve. First look at the structure. There's a spool here, there's a boom spool. Look at the highlight. This real object corresponds to this schematic diagram. This is the boom valve core, spool. You see, the lower end of this spool is a screw, and the spring structure, right. This spring corresponds to this place, the spring is highlighted, and then this place is a boom spool. Boom spool is also called regenerative spool, because for the spool of the big dig, boom generally has two spool. One is main spool, there is a regenerative spool. Then everyone can see that there is a regeneration valve core corresponding to the regeneration valve core. This structure is a one-way valve in this. It is equivalent to a return of energy when the boom descends. Receive. Equivalent to putting an oil in the rodless cavity. Recycle into the rod cavity. Okay, and then this left side is a valve body. On the right is a valve body. Then for the left valve body, there's a pressure retaining valve over here, also called latching valve. Corresponding to a structure of the highlighted part of the picture. The function of the pressure retaining valve is to prevent this large cavity from leaking and cause the arm to fall. Okay, here is a one-way valve. See, highlighted part of the one-way valve. And then here's the lead part. Here is an oil port reserved valve. Then for the right side of the valve body, here's a one-way valve. Then there is also an oil port reserved valve here, but this structure is a bit like two-stage pressurization or two-stage reduction. Pressed. A function. And then there's this little screw in this place, to prevent this spool from turning inside. It is equivalent to the time of high pressure and large flow. This spool turns inside. Then, let's take a look. For example, when the boom is raised, let's take a look at this oil circuit. Spool switching. Spool. Down. When the movement. Let's take a look at the downward switch of the valve core, the direction of this oil circuit. This is the boom lift. Okay, let's take a look at this oil circuit, corresponding to an oil circuit. When the boom is raised, it is equivalent to our two valve cores to work. First look at the oil in this place, into the oil. The oil in this place, you see, is right here. You guys follow me on this schematic. Walk through this real thing. This part of the oil goes through here, through this one-way valve. It's the oil in this place. Go through this check valve to this side. Right, come this way, and then after this spool switch, through this spool. Okay, after this spool switch, then arrive. This place. On the one hand through here, reach the lockout valve, and then go to the corresponding cylinder, and then the other way. On the other side, this is the pump port. It's right here. Here at the pump port, and then the top opens this one-way valve. This is the oil. Top open this one-way valve, and then come here. And then the top opens this one-way valve, to here, through this spool. Through this spool. Do you think everyone saw it? Through this spool. Through this spool. Make a confluence. Make a confluence, and then top open the locking valve. Reach the rodless cavity, and then there's the rod cavity, there's the oil return, there's a rod cavity, there's oil return. Look at the oil with the rod cavity. Oil return, right, on the one hand, through this spool. Directly return to the fuel tank. On the one hand, through this spool. Go straight back to the fuel tank. This road is the return of oil. After this spool return oil. Did you all see that? Oil return. On the one hand, through this spool. Directly return to the fuel tank. There's still a part. Oil goes from here. Look, everybody, some of the oil goes here. Back, and some of the oil goes here. Go. Back. Through this spool. Oil return. Right? Right, everyone should see it. Should you understand it? This is when the boom is raised. When the boom is raised, both of these spools have to work. Okay. And then for the boom down, take a closer look at the structure and the animation. When the boom is lowered, the spool is pushed up. Okay, let's take another look. When the boom is lowered. Right, you can have a look. What is the structure and principle of boom lowering? You can have a look. For boom lowering, generally, a spool will work. You can take a look at this oil circuit. You see the oil from the pump goes through this one-way valve. You see the oil from the pump goes through this one-way valve. Through this one-way valve, and then to this reversing valve. Drive directly to the side with the rod cavity. Drive to a rod cavity. Big cavity of oil. Through this lockout valve, and then to the boom spool, and then through this regenerative spool inside. It's this one-way valve. Did you see that, everybody? This one-way valve. The oil from this check valve. Push this check valve up. Then the oil goes through this hollow spool. and then walk, walk. Oil go 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 go. And then we get to this with a rod cavity. Achieve a regeneration. Equivalent for the decline. This spool just plays a role in regeneration, is equivalent to an energy recovery, right? Now there is a part of this energy that is collected again in this spool department. It's like this inside, it's uncontrollable. This regeneration amount cannot be controlled. We did a project earlier. It's the equivalent of regenerating the inside to the outside, through the proportional valve to control its regeneration, so that we can control how much we regenerate, so that it regenerates the oil as needed, and then goes to this oil rod cavity to go. Then there is another plan to do something. Accumulator, right. The oil in this large chamber is parasitized in the accumulator, can then be assigned to each other functional device. For example, assigned to the stick couplet and so on. It is equivalent to recovering the energy of lowering the boom to the stick, union or bucket union, other union. Okay. Today is to give you a brief account of my concern for this movement, a cognition of the arm valve. You can think about it carefully. If you have any questions, everyone can be private to me.